Hello, everyone. I'm Hartford HealthCare's Tina Verona. We want to welcome you to a very important Facebook Live discussion where we invite you to join the conversation. The COVID-19 vaccine fighting fear with facts. Undoubtedly, we are in a pivotal time as we finally begin to take control of the epidemiology behind this virus. And as we go forward, we do so addressing the health disparities among the West Indian population. We are so proud to co-host this event with the Jamaican Consulate. At this time, I would like to introduce my co-moderator, Chris Chaplin, Jamaica's Honorary Consul, Philadelphia. Chris, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Tina. Really appreciate the work that you and your team have put in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an outstanding panel, outstanding forum. I also wish you a warm Jamaican welcome. Temperature is great here in Philadelphia, and I hope it's great where you are. I'd like to take this first step to introduce my colleague, outstanding leader, Consulate General Alcion Roach Wilson, who heads up our consulate in New York. And not only does she head up the consulate in New York, she's directly responsible for 33 US states, as well as Puerto Rico and Bermuda. She has established an outstanding and blistering track record since being appointed in 2019. And she has paved the way and put a lot of light as we help our community during this pandemic. So Consul General Roach Wilson, over to you.
Thank you so much, Chris, our honorary consul in Philly, and one of our moderators for today. To the distinguished presenters, I thank you so much for participating in today's forum. Of course, my friend, Mr. Keith Grant, Dr. Paul Anthony, Dr. Camilla Lawrence, and of course, another friend of mine, Dr. Robert Clark. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us on the Zoom Facebook this afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in today. Thank you so kindly for being a part of this informative virtual webinar, which was organized by the Consulate General of Jamaica, New York, in partnership with the Hartford HealthCare. This forum will enable you, our audience, to be captivated by the virtual information to be presented by the esteemed panel of experts in the medical field who have lined up here today. These panelists will share their wealth of knowledge on COVID-19 vaccine, which is most critical to broadening our knowledge and understanding of this latest effort in collaborating this daily virus. This interactive forum will serve to present the facts and dispel the myths on the vaccination initiative as we aim to fight our fear with the facts. Ladies and gentlemen, as the Consul General of Jamaica to New York, with responsibility for 32 other states, including Connecticut, I could not have bypassed this very important opportunity to engage with our vibrant Jamaican community in Hartford. I must express my sincerest appreciation to my very good friend, Keith, himself a proud Jamaican, and is supportive team from Hartford HealthCare for partnering with us to organize this forum. This forum is a follow-up to the free vaccination clinic outreach in partnership with New York Health and Hospitals, which was held at the consulate last week on April 1st through the 4th. The robust support which was given by all who attended, including members of the diplomatic and the consular community, is proof that there is power in building strong relationships. This forum with Hartford HealthCare only serves to highlight the special emphasis which we at the Consulate General place on mutually beneficial partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, this forum is poised to be a success. I therefore urge you, if you have not started, to begin writing the burning questions which you have about the COVID-19 vaccine. I know for a fact that the responses from the presenters today will leave you with a renewed sense of responsibility in making an informed decision regarding vaccination for you and your family. Thank you so much for joining us, and one love. Chris?
Thank you, Council General. And Tina, I'll hand it over to you as we start the question and answer period of our forum.
Thank you, Chris, and what a beautiful introduction, and we appreciate you, Consul General Alcian, for joining us. I would now like to introduce our distinguished panel of experts for today's discussions. Keith Grant, he's an APRN and Senior System Director of Infection Prevention at Hartford HealthCare. Keith, welcome.
Thank you so much. And I think I'm definitely looking forward to the conversations here. I really do feel it's a wonderful opportunity to collaborate with this team with a common goal in mind. There's a lot of information for us to get out to a community that we all are very close to, we're all involved with, and we all believe that as a system such as Hartford HealthCare, we have a significant part to play in ensuring that the appropriate information and resources sent out to this group.
Absolutely, so vitally important. Welcoming Dr. Paul Anthony, Infectious Diseases at Hartford HealthCare. Dr. Paul Anthony, welcome.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. And this is the place to ask your questions and get the answers to get ready to get vaccinated and stop the pandemic.
Absolutely. Dr. Robert Clark, he's an internist at St. Michael's Medical Center. Dr. Clark, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me and all the distinguished panels. I am indeed honored to be with all these great minds, including my infectious disease colleague. We hope to dispel all the myths that are surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic in terms, of how we approach it, and the vaccination procedures, how the vaccine works, the side effects that one may get from all these vaccines. We're here to answer the question and dispel the myths. I know there are a lot, and especially in the Jamaican community, the Black community, there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy. And we hope that after today's forum, we will most definitely improve upon that and have people trying to get vaccinated in a much faster pace. Thank you.
Well said. And last but certainly never least, Dr. Camilla Lawrence, Director of Breast Surgery at the Hartford HealthCare Central Region. Dr. Lawrence, it's always great to see you.
It's always a pleasure to see you as well, Tina, and thanks to everyone for being here today. I'm excited to be a part of this distinguished panel to have a very important discussion regarding the importance of this vaccine. For me in particular, when this vaccine came on the scene, it represented hope, having been directly impacted by the COVID-19, by losing family members to this virus. So please come on with your questions. To all my Jamaican friends out there, Watagwan, we're waiting for the questions. Please bring them.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Well, let's get right to it. Keith, let's start with you. There is a large geographical footprint of the West Indian population right here in Connecticut, and there are disparities that exist within the access of care. It's really about building a platform to do more for this community. Let's talk about what specifically is needed.
Yeah, Tina, I think that's a good place to start. And the reasons why, this is not what we saw, the result of COVID-19 is not caused primarily because of COVID-19. There's a community that you've outlined, and there's systems that are set up. There's systems that are set up, such as the health system, that might not be set up to maximize within these communities, right? So with the health system as it's set up right now, volume is what really drives business currently. And we've appreciate that from a business perspective and from a care perspective. But now, for example, we're having to reach out into these specific communities, meet with these specific community leaders in order to push the platform of proper education, in order to push a platform about access and why it is that is important for you to come in and get screened as soon as possible. So I do believe that we have a grand opportunity, but it's not primarily, conversation shouldn't end with COVID-19 or COVID-19 vaccination. It should be an appreciation of how big Hartford Healthcare is in Connecticut and how big the West Indian population is in Connecticut. If we're going to reach out to our community, it should include specifically our West Indian community as well.
Thank you, Dr. Grant. My next question is for Dr. Anthony, and it's a bit of a personal question. My 25-year-old son has told my wife and I that he's not sure he's going to take the vaccine immediately. He's going to wait for a bit of a time. What can I tell him to convince him and others that they should get it as soon as they can?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. And the funny thing is I had that same conversation with my little cousin who is 28 years old, except, she's a woman, and I'll get into that a little later. But essentially what I would tell him is that, I understand it's part of what they call watching waiters. There were some in our own personal group who wanted to see, let me see how those guys do when they get the vaccine before I commit to getting it myself. But, now we've been vaccinating for a while. I can tell him that the vaccine is safe. And, there's like 3 flavors available out there right now that he can get. And the vaccine has been shown to prevent, people from getting the virus, and also, from having bad things. Like if you look at the trials, no one who got the vaccine died. So in all my years doing infectious diseases, this is one of the few diseases when, we have some indication of who is not going to do well if they get the virus, but I've seen very young people, struggle with the virus. So it's still a disease that carries, significant risk of dying. So if he really wants to be around and wants to protect his family, I would say you should get the vaccine.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you, Tina.
Well, Dr. Camilla Lawrence, we have heard a lot about the effects of the COVID vaccine that has had on mammograms. What is the correlation? Do we know between the two? Because screenings are so vitally important, and we want to make sure that women are getting screened.
Absolutely. One of the things that we've noticed with the onset of the pandemic is that the number of women going in for their screening mammogram has significantly decreased. And what we do know is that breast cancer has not stopped, neither of any of the other malignancies have not stopped because of the pandemic. So it's absolutely important for us to continue to be vigilant in terms of getting your screening mammogram. As it pertains to mammography and the COVID-19 vaccine, the vaccine itself can cause swollen lymph nodes within the armpit as well as within the supraclavicular nodes, and it can be picked up on your screening mammogram. This is a harmless finding from your immune system response to the vaccine, but the challenge is that women who present with breast cancer can also present with enlarged lymph nodes. So the current recommendation is that if you are due for your mammogram, we recommend getting your mammogram at least 4 weeks after your second dose, or perhaps get your mammogram before you get the COVID-19 vaccine. But this is a harmless finding, should not deter anyone from continuing with their surveillance.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Chris?
Yes, thank you, Tina. Dr. Clark, I know I've spoken to you enough to know you're a diehard Jamaican like me.
Yes, sir.
Every week I get calls here in Philadelphia about wanting to travel to Jamaica, and obviously our consulate here is here to help. But what are the risks of me or anybody traveling to Jamaica right now, if we get vaccinated or not?
Well, the risk, I'm particularly speaking about those who are unvaccinated. The risk is very great. Less so when people are vaccinated. I'm pretty sure the CDC will be coming out with some guidelines as to a vaccination, proposed vaccination passport. But until then, we really have to take the necessary precautions that we always take during the COVID pandemic. Jamaica is particularly a hotspot. I believe the infection rate is somewhere about in the 30s, 38, 33% thereabout. And this, of course, is particularly tied to the variant, which could be from England, could be from Brazil, we don't know, because there's not much genomic testing going on in Jamaica. So I'm not sure that they can pinpoint as to where, these variants are coming from. But because of the link that we have, the special link we have with England or UK, I'm assuming that the variant is more than likely coming from there. And of course, in the United States, we have locally bred variants as well. And there's a lot of Jamaicans here which are going to Jamaica. And of course, we are also bringing these homegrown variants from the United States to Jamaica. So I would tell travelers to do what I do when I go down, protect yourself, wear a mask, sanitize. The planes nowadays, they have some very good HEPA filters that protect us. Everybody has to wear a mask when they're going down. And in Jamaica, when you go down, there's a very strict policy that you have to have a negative test and you have to be quarantined for at least 14 days. There's a COVID-19 app on your phone that they use to track you. So even if you're staying at the Marriott Hotel and you try to go outside that area, you will get a message on your app that you are traveling outside the quarantine zone. And that will, that can alert the authorities to either come to see you and say, hey, my friend, we're going to charge you this, fine you this amount of money or whatever. So it's a pretty good system. As long as you go there and you take the necessary precautions, you should be okay. Unfortunately, though, Jamaicans themselves are not taking it so seriously. Because being there myself up to a few weeks ago, I've been in Kingston. That's where I go, and you'll be surprised to see how many people are walking around without mask. And if I see 10 to 15% of people with masks, that's a lot, and that's unfortunate. And even with some of our colleagues, I happen to know a physician there who actually got COVID, and lack of wearing masks and stuff like that. So if we do the simple basic stuff that we know, wear a mask, okay, sanitize and keep our distance, we should be pretty good. We should be okay. So it's pretty
Perfect.
safe to travel as long as you do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, good. Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Clark. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Tina, I think you're doing the next question.
Yes, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Dr. Clark. Some very good advice there. Well, at this time, we want to open it up to you, the viewers, and give you a chance to ask your questions to our esteemed panel of experts. We have a question. I think we should probably send this one to Keith. Dwinette asks, why is the vaccine only effective for 6 months? Dwinette, thank you so much for watching and for your question.
So, Renee, I'm going to tell you the thing, I like an informed question. So that's a good question. And I'm going to tell you why what I believe is an informed question. So Pfizer actually just released their study, and I'm sure Dr. Clark and all the other panelists are aware of it, study that we were looking for. So we're very excited about it. And with that study, what they did look at is 6 months out on individuals who's been vaccinated, is the vaccine still effective? So it answered a critical question that I'm sure we've all gotten from patients, right? And individuals in the community. How long will this be effective for? So the result of that study showed that even after 6 months, it was still effective. It doesn't mean that it's only effective up until 6 months. It means even after 6 months, still effective. So we still do believe within the clinical community that this will extend way beyond 6 months. And this belief is consistent with what we realize, or what we know about antibody reaction and the sustainment of antibodies, not just with COVID, but other antibodies. So, within the next few months, Pfizer will do another study, and probably at 9 months, they will look and see, is it still effective? We do believe it should sustain way beyond that. So much more conversations to be had on that. But at this point, it's over 6 months. It's not until 6 months, it's over 6 months.
Thank you, Keith. And Chris, over to you. I believe Dwinette has a follow-up question for Dr. Anthony.
Yes, she does. The question is, which vaccine is more effective and which one would you really recommend? She's hearing that the Pfizer is the best. I've heard, Moderna. So which one is the best and which one would you personally recommend?
Yeah, great question. And I have a very simple answer to that one. The best vaccine is the one that's going into your arm. That's like the one that's readily available to you is the best vaccine. And I don't say this lightly. I say it because if you look at the data, like I said before, no one who got any of the vaccines died, and no one really had a severe hospitalization. And really, that's what we want to get out of this. The bad news out of all this is that COVID is here to stay. Like coronaviruses, which is the family that COVID belongs to, they've been around way before any of your ancestors were born, and they're going to be around long after we're all gone. So the only thing we're trying to do is to transform this into a common cold. So that's what the vaccines are for. So any vaccine you can get, I highly recommend it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that answer. I'll definitely pass the word as well.
Thanks.
Tina?
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, well said. The best vaccine is the one that is available. So true. We now have a question for Dr. Camilla Lawrence. Brenda asks, I hear that the vaccine can affect mammogram results. What do I need to know? Brenda, thanks for watching, of course, and for the question.
Thanks for the question, Brenda. In terms of mammogram result, it relates back to the swollen lymph nodes that you can see on the mammogram. And the astute radiologist will point it out to you. Currently, what we are recommending is that the woman returned within 8 weeks to 3 months for a repeat ultrasound. By then, the overwhelming majority of women will notice that the swollen lymph node has resolved. And it's really just to cross our T's and dot our I's to ensure that the adenopathy, the swollen lymph node, is due to the vaccine and not an underlying malignancy. As I mentioned before, this is a harmless finding. It's a reaction to the vaccine. It means your immune system is working effectively, the fact that you're able to mount an immune response.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. I think that's so important to stress and to really, it's about educating, because it can be scary for a woman to hear those results that she has to come back, and knowing that there is a correlation between the vaccine and your mammogram results, I think is comforting for a lot of women.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Chris, over to you for a question for Dr. Clark.
Sure. Thanks, Tina. Dr. Clark, obviously we've heard a lot about the variants, out of the UK, Brazil, South Africa, and wonders, how we're going to fight all of them. So in terms of fighting these variants, what vaccine, and I know the one that's available is the one you should take, but how are we handling these variants in terms of vaccine?
That's an extremely good question. I believe so far we're handling it very well. The only issue is that in the United States, I'm sure you know that sometimes a little politics is mixed with medicine, which is very sad. And so some of the states have opted to stop wearing masks, which is going to be a very bad nightmare for us, because as my colleague Dr. Anthony says, the best vaccine is the one that is readily available to go into your arm right now, which is all three: Moderna, Pfizer, and the Johnson & Johnson. They have all showed to be extremely effective against the corona. As we are all aware, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine studies was done not only in the United States, but it was also done in the UK and South Africa. And so when it was done, most of these variants were already out, and it has proven to be extremely effective against these variants. And so at this point, we don't look at the 68 or the 62% effectiveness, because again, we have to look at when the study was done. The other two vaccines were done when there were not much of the wild types or the variants around. And so, we got a good 94, 93% effectiveness, which is also very good. So I will say, suffice it to say, that all three vaccines so far are doing pretty good against the wild type or the variants that are around so far. So far, so good. So this is why everyone, as soon as they can, should get vaccinated. Very, very important. And we are here to dispel all the myths, all the fabs, all the fictions about not getting a vaccine or what the vaccine does to you and all of that, because it's very, very, very much safe.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. That was very helpful. Tina, over to you.
Chris, thank you. question for Keith, and this question comes from our chat on the webinar. I have a fear of needles. Can I choose the J&J vaccine?
Yes. So if you're within, the ranges of Hartford HealthCare, we have a significant number of vaccination clinics. One of the commitments that we've had is to ensure that individuals have the ability to choose. So you choose what vaccine you get. And, we had a lot of discussions about this before, because some systems are basically saying whatever vaccine you get. But, based on even this conversation right now, choice is a huge thing. So where people choose to get care, how they choose to get education and information about healthcare is very, very important, something that we want to support. And Yale as well is doing it. So if you're within Connecticut and the bounds of Connecticut, Hartford HealthCare, Yale, definitely you choose what vaccine you get.
Thank you, Keith. Chris, back over to you to get some thoughts now from Ms. Roche-Wilson.
Okay, Tina, Consul General Roche-Wilson, I know you've provided strong leadership over the last year in terms of getting the word out to our community, doing actual work. I remember when our airports were closed last year, the effort you led. Any thoughts?
Yes, sure. Man, this is going well so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. And I hope that Hartford Health will partner with us again very soon, and not only our vaccine initiative, but several other initiatives that will be setting forth here and in Jamaica. Chris, last week, you will recall, we partnered with New York Health. And we had a 4-day vaccine pop-up, if you will, at the consulate. We were able to have New York Health and hospitals agree to administer about 500 vaccines. And this was a Johnson & Johnson. I know, persons have their preference. We were only able to receive the Johnson & Johnson because, of course, the clinic was at the consulate, and the Moderna and the Pfizer is two, you have to have two jobs. The Johnson & Johnson is one. I was taken aback that our Caribbean and, for the most part, our Jamaican diaspora did not turn out in their numbers to receive their vaccine. We were able to administer 447, I believe, vaccines, but of that 447, sadly, if I was to give you the numbers in percentage of her nationals that turned out, sadly, I would say I would put that number at only 15%. The sad thing about this is, as Dr. Clark so rightfully stated, COVID-19 is here to stay. And, we have seen in Jamaica currently where the virus is rampant. And so if we don't, at some point, come to the realization that this is really serious, and we not only need to follow the proper protocols, but to take our vaccination, we're going to be in serious trouble. And so I'm pleading with anyone. I'm not here to force anyone to take a vaccine, but I'm asking if your family member, a friend, would at some point seek the proper education, seek to educate yourself as it relates to the myths, and there are quite a few myths out there as it relates surrounding the vaccines. I myself, as you know, Chris, I've had several family members that have passed because they've contracted the virus. Just yesterday, I had a family member that passed as well. Neither one of these family members that passed took the vaccine. Of course, two of the family members that passed was last year, prior to any of the vaccine was available to them. But sometimes, there was a saying in Jamaica that says, who feels it knows it. And so I have felt it, right? I wouldn't want to wish what I'm feeling today on anyone. And so I would like to invite all our diasporans to please get yourself vaccinated. And thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time to be our moderator today. Dr. Clark, thank you so much. Dr. Anthony, of course, Ms. Lawrence, thank you so much. And my friend Keith, we would love to partner with Hartford Health going forward. One of the things that I would love to do is for us, similar to the vaccine clinic that we hosted at the Consulate last week with New York Health, we would love to come up to Hartford, Keith, to do the same. We have a very large Jamaican community in Hartford. I think close to 300,000 Jamaicans live in the Connecticut, Hartford area. And so we would love to come up and soon, very, very soon, in short order, to have maybe a vaccine pop up at Hartford, or maybe at one of our community centers in Hartford where our nationals can come out and get themselves vaccinated. Funny enough, many of our nationals still don't know how to get the vaccine. So it's very important for us to get the word out. So thank you so much for joining us today. And Keith, I'm looking forward to partnering with Hartford very soon.
So you tell us the day, and whenever it is, that we'll put effort into setting it up. In fact, you tell us the day itself, and we can do all the logistics and setting it up. I can tell you this is something that we've done a lot of. So we've had many collaborations with community leaders, to include leaders in the West Indian community. We've been at the West Indian Social Club many times. And that's something that we're committed to keep doing. But if you want to make a presence here through your group, collaborating with Hartford HealthCare, please let us know and we'll facilitate that as well.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And Dr. Clark, I'm looking forward to doing the same with you as well in New Jersey. I know your facility is in New Jersey. Maybe the consulate in New York and the one in Philly where Chris says we could, just come together and do something not only for our diasporans that resides in New Jersey, but both New Jersey and in Philly as well.
Absolutely. Welcome anytime, Alcian. Anytime. Just say the word.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all. That has been a tremendous panel. I hope when the pandemic is through, to meet each and every one of you, and the jerk chicken and rice and peas is on me, and that includes Tina. So Tina, over to you.
Don't forget jerk pork.
No, I don't eat the pork, Dr. Clark. I apologize.
Tina is amazing, man. So Tina, I gotta tell you, Tina has been pivotal in so much of this. Like, the awareness that Tina has, to ensure that not just information goes out, but specific information. So Tina is working with a very, very significant team at Hartford, and she's absolutely amazing. So kudos to Tina as well for putting this together. Keep in mind, like, we just have an idea. Tina, make this happen. Like, I don't.
Yes, that's true.
I have no idea how this happened. She just tells me where to go, and I'm talking, and I'm not talking, and it's Tina and her team's amazing. So.
And she does not sleep. She sends emails all hours of the night.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tina. Good job. Thank you so much.
Yes, Tina and Melissa, outstanding job on the Hartford HealthCare team. It's been easy to work with both of them. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey guys, anything else? I think from me, I would say, as always, any opportunity to collaborate, I always look forward to it. And, I try not to tell people to get the vaccine. It's very important to get educated, right? Very important to get the right information. And it's not just about the vaccine, it's about health access. It's about, Dr. Clark can say much about this as well. It's about hypertension and what it's doing to our community. It's about diabetes and what it's doing within our communities. It's about that primary health care. It's about ensuring that you know exactly what your baseline is. Very important. You have a primary care. You don't just go to the doctor when something is falling off or something doesn't smell right, right? You know, you go and get your annual checkup. Very, very important. So I think those are key pieces of it. So any efforts to collaborate to get this done, get this moving is very, very important. And I will support it 100%.
Keith, someone just sent me a question. Tina, am I able to ask, or Melissa?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So she says that I hear that all the vaccine only have a certain shelf life. Seems to be very short, 3 months or somewhere thereabout. What makes the vaccine go so bad so quickly?
That's a good question. And I'll tell you, there's a good way to answer this question, right? In order for the vaccine, so keep in mind, these vaccines have no antibiotics, no preservative, no adjuvants, right? And no FDA approved, there's no buffers in there. The vaccine, primary mRNA vaccine is consist of the actual mRNA sequencing, water, sucrose, and an adjuvant. That's it. It does not have antibiotics, no primary preservative. That's very key. So with preservative, it gives the ability for the vaccine to stay on shelves for a long period of time. I don't think this is going to be permanent with a preservative piece, and I'll tell you why. The vaccines that are being rolled out now in general are getting into arms very quickly. So we know from a manufacturing perspective, their need to put these in is probably less. Preservatives generally, or depending on what it is, obviously it's safe, right? It's going to go through the trial process and we'll determine that. But that's a primary reason. The vaccines as it stands right now do not get manufactured with preservative, which means obviously less shelf life.
Okay. And Keith, may I ask a question for myself? So I received the J&J on Sunday. And so in your estimation, when do you think I would need my another vaccine? So is it going to be 6 months from now? Is it 9 months from now, a year from now, or 2 years?
A booster, right? That's what you're asking?
Yes.
So
Yes.
A booster vaccine is nothing, there's no conclusion yet on boosters, right? And that conclusion will start happening when we start looking at a few sets of data. One set of data is something we've kind of discussed so far, and that data is how long is this going to last, right? So let's say we've discovered a vaccine is going to last for coverage-wise a year, 2 years. So I think about that time we start having a discussion about booster. And then around that time, we start having a discussion about what boosters do we get. It's going to look like, if anything, and this is a huge scientific supposition, like if we do boosters, what it will look like is what we have for the flu vaccine. Understand that the flu vaccine, and I'm sure Dr. Clark and Dr. Anthony, every year they have the same discussion. What you see for a flu vaccine this year is different from what's next year, right? Completely different from what's next year. So it's going to be what's the prevailing variance. It's going to be, within this geographic environment, that's going to probably drive what the booster is. But again, this is not a concluded discussion yet. It is just based on what we know, what we know about vaccines over the last years of practicing. So not a conclusion, not an absolute we're getting booster, but if boosters are going to happen, we hope it's not until the next year, 2 years after getting vaccinated, and we're not sure exactly what variants it's going to be.
Okay, and my last question, real quickly. So I took the vaccine on Sunday. My deputy Van Roy Rochester, he took it, I believe, on Friday, on Good Friday. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any side effects. I was fine. No headaches, no chills, no nothing. However, Deputy Rochester had some side effects. He had a headache. I believe he had the chills as well. He said that he felt a little woozy. I don't know what woozy meant, and it went on for about 2 days, I believe. He had to stay home to rest for 2 days. So the question is, why is it that some persons experience certain side effects? Lots of persons have told me that they felt very sleepy after they took the J&J. So some persons experience these side effects, and others, like myself, absolutely nothing.
So Dr. Clark, doesn't it sound weird how he get 2 days off because he have some side effects?
That is so true. That is absolutely true.
Are you
because,
saying that me?
but if I may say, so those are things that you expect. Everybody's, of course, immune system is different, and we all know that. And those are some of the side effects. In fact, those are typical side effects that one would get. The fatigue, fever, you get some chills, muscle aches, and all that stuff. Those are definitely what you would see, and those are minor stuff. They go away within 72 hours. Okay, so it is what it is. All right. Um, One must also understand, and this is just quickly speaking, is that remember that the coronavirus loves inflammation. It is like a petri dish for inflammation, and this is why people with comorbid condition should hurry up and get vaccinated. For example, a person who is obese, is a typical example. What some lay person does not know is that there's a lot of inflammatory changes going on inside of that. And imagine COVID is bringing tons of inflammatory products with it, and it is inducing inflammatory response. So you add that to the inflammation going on into a person who's obese, people with comorbidities, people with end-stage renal disease, and this is why people get overwhelmed and die quickly, because you're overwhelming the immune system. You understand? So this immune system is going into high gear. So with all those inflammatory processes going on, one, your body gets overwhelmed and a lot of people cannot undergo it, and they die. So my colleagues can attest to this. We really would love for the people with the comorbid condition to please get vaccinated. Hypertension, diabetes, morbid obesity, people or even if you're a little bit overweight, please. These are things that you should know that you have. If you have not yet seen a doctor to be diagnosed, you may as well go and do some checkup, because sometimes we Jamaicans hate doctors for some reason. And we all know the phobia that exists in the Jamaican community with going to physicians, especially people who are getting their prostate examined. Jamaicans are no with all of that. And sometimes they can have these prostate issues going on, which is also, if you have prostate cancer, that is also a comorbid condition. So this is why sometimes people die and you're thinking, oh, he's healthy. Maybe not. Maybe he had some prostate issues going on, a little bit of cancer, and he didn't know because he never got it checked out. So again, we have to be mindful of that fact. And I would implore my brothers and sisters out there, my Jamaicans, my colleagues, everybody in the Caribbean, if you have comorbid conditions, please hurry up and get a vaccine in your shoulder, as my colleague, Dr. Anthony, alluded to. Please.
Absolutely. Tina, any questions coming from
Dr.
your end?
Clark,
Yes.
I would like to take this time to go around and ask all of the panelists, each of the panelists, we had talked in the beginning of this Facebook Live discussion about some of the myths and misconceptions that you're hearing. So I'd like to ask each one of the panelists what you're hearing so that we can dispel some of these myths and misconceptions. Keith, let's start with you.
Thanks, Tina. So, I was in a very fortunate position where, before the vaccine came out, Tina, Rebecca, Nick, Melissa, and the entire team would get together and we'll come on media and we'll talk about, the vaccine is coming. These are what we're seeing from the trials. I was also in a very fortunate position as being one of the first persons to get the vaccine in the state of Connecticut. So I would have people reach out to me more frequently than I've ever had people reaching out to me. So it's literally, and you could tell, they were literally trying to check up on what's going on. Paul is one of them, by the way. So they're checking up to see, did you grow an extra leg? Did you grow? No, absolutely. So there's a significant, I agree with you, Tina, a lot of myth that goes on with it. I think the things that I've heard, mostly, some of which we've covered, is the fact that one, the vaccine doesn't last for, just a few months. So, we're in a good space right now to say that it's helping a lot. The other one that I have get a lot is it doesn't cover the variances. A new study just showed by Pfizer that for B1351, which is a South African variant, which is the one that we're most concerned with right now, is that very small study, 800 individuals, so show significantly good efficacy with the vaccine. So again, it's effective. Where safety is concerned, is it going to interrupt my DNA? Vaccine has no interaction with your DNA, has no ability to actually modify DNA. So that is key. There's no tracking device in the vaccine as well. So that's huge, right? It's a huge conversation. I don't know if anyone else has anything else.
It is amazing what is circulating on the
Yes.
internet when it comes to the efficacy of the vaccine. Dr. Anthony, I want to
Yes.
pose that same question to you. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think, thanks, Tina. From my end, one of the most common ones I'm getting is, uh, I'm afraid to get the vaccine because I'm gonna get the actual disease from it. And people really think that, because it's especially when you talk about the mRNA vaccine, so they think that it's gonna implant the RNA of the virus into them and that they're gonna get the actual COVID. And the reality is, like, it's absolutely not true. You're not gonna get COVID from the actual vaccine. If anything, you're gonna get protected and you're gonna be a lot less likely to get it. So that's really one of the most common myth that I'm getting out there. And also, like, in the same realm, there are some people who really think that there are microprocessors or microchips embedded into the vaccine and that it's gonna alter the DNA. So, I know you carry a microprocessor and a microchip with you every day. It's this little thing here, like your cell phone. That's really the microprocessor you're carrying everywhere, but there's no microprocessor in the vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. Dr. Clark, I want to ask you, something that we hear about a lot is the timing of the vaccines and how expeditiously they have been, brought to the forefront, that we have vaccines now in just 8 or 9 short months. And typically a vaccine would take, 5 to 9 to 10 years. So a lot of people are really hesitant because they just don't know the long-term effects. Are you hearing that? And what are your thoughts on that for Dr. Clark?
Excellent question. That is one of the most questions that have been definitely posed to me. Now, we all know that back in the day, um, the way vaccines were developed would be that it would take the weakened vaccine, okay? Live attenuated, a weakened version injected to you inside of your body, and the body would recognize it and they would build immune response to that. However, with technology, that has changed. Now we have the mRNA vaccine, and this is not a technology that we just had. This is a technology that's been around for decades. And it's been used in the past, and it has been shown to be very, very efficacious and indeed very effective. Now, the way that works is that the mRNA it's called a messenger RNA, and the way that works is you put it injected inside the body. It's a little protein called a spike protein, and what happens is that the body recognizes it and it makes the protein that looks exactly like it, and then it is represented on the surface of your cells. And when that happens is the mRNA protein is now then destroyed by your body because it doesn't no longer need that. So what is really expressed now is the one that the body makes, and it is expressed on the cell surface. And what the body does is it makes antibodies towards it so that when the real SARS-CoV virus comes inside of you, we have enough of the antibodies to protect ourselves against it. And so this is typically how it works. It's very safe. And as my colleague alluded to, this does not penetrate the DNA, right? The nucleus of the cells. It does not go, and that's where the DNA is. This particular mRNA does not penetrate the nucleus, okay? To go into to interact with the DNA. Absolutely false. It will not happen. So it's extremely safe. So we have to dispel that myth that it will affect our DNA, so that the speed, again, of how this vaccine came about, again, is not new to us because the mRNA technology has been around for quite some time.
Very well.
Dr. Clark, thank you. And it is the fear of the unknown, and that's why discussions like this are so important, to educate and to create that awareness. Dr. Lawrence, I want to turn it over to you as a breast surgeon. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And what are you telling your patients?
Well, just to piggyback on what Dr. Clark just mentioned, a lot of patients have had questions, or friends, why was it developed so quickly? And I think what we really see here is that cash is king, right? Because for the first time we had an emergency on our hands, such as with the extent of the pandemic, and it forced actually big pharma as well as our government institution to really come together and pool our resources to develop this vaccine in a very short period of time. But all the routine scientific measures as it pertains to safety for the development of a vaccine were utilized here. It just means that we got all the resources, we finally got on the same page, got all the resources, and we were able to develop a very efficacious and safe vaccine. There's a lot of myth that it can cause miscarriages. That's one of the most common ones that I've heard, and there's no data to suggest this. I think it's a conversation with your physician, but there's no contraindication to a pregnant woman being vaccinated. The message here is the vaccine represents hope. It's been a long year. I think the vaccine represents the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm encouraging everyone to be vaccinated. I appreciate the hesitancy when we first started out, given the historical context of healthcare within this country and why there may be a mistrust in the health system. But you have a panel of experts who have had the vaccine themselves and know and strongly believe in this vaccine, which is why we're here and advocating for you to get vaccinated, because it's our best way out.
Very nice.
Chris, I'm going to send it back over to you.
Thank you, Tina. I think we're about to close off. I just wanted to extend.
Before you close off, I don't want to interrupt. There's just one other myth out there, and is that people who has gotten COVID infection does not need or require the vaccine. That's a myth. That is totally wrong. Okay, you can still get sick after that. In fact, I just had a patient, unfortunately, who was only 42 years old with comorbidities, hypertension, renal failure. She was only 42 and diabetes. She had it the first time, lasted for 4 months. After that, she came into me, sick again with a second infection because she was tested negative several times, came back in with a reinfection, and unfortunately this time she did not make it, and she was only 42 years old. So it's very unfortunate, and she also thought that she could not have gotten it again, which, unfortunately she had to pay with her life for it, because she told me point blank she was not going to get the vaccine, and she ended up dead. So please, the recommendation is that 90 days after you're eligible for the vaccine, if you were infected, please get it. It saves lives. You can be reinfected. I just wanted to add that.
Can't say
Consul
that.
General?
Final thoughts?
Yeah, Chris, there are two other important questions in the chat that I just saw. There's one from my colleague, the Consul General of South Africa. So the name Tawana, that's our Consul General from South Africa. And he is asking, will we host another clinic with Hartford HealthCare soon, or when boosters are needed? I'll let Keith answer that.
So another clinic, as in another vaccination
clinic?
clinic?
He says, will we host another clinic soon, or when boosters are needed? Yes, we're going to host another one. Yes.
Just working out the logistic and the timing, we will definitely work on a clinic. That's absolutely not a problem. We're not going to wait for boosters. That's not a problem at all.
Right. And Vanessa Williams is asking, what over-the-counter this is very important. Many persons that came into the consulate for the vaccine clinic asked me this very same questions. Of course, I directed them to the medical personnel that we had at the consulate. What over-the-counter medicine can I take 30 minutes before or after my vaccination to ease the discomfort of the side effects, like pain at the injection site, body aches, and fever? She said, I took an Advil PM to get a good night's sleep, but of course I don't have any contradictions for over-the-counter medicines. So the doctor, someone can answer this.
No. The best pain medicine is acetaminophen. Okay, we try not to use those NSAIDs at all. for more than one reason. We all know that, you know, the COVID virus, we are still learning about it, of course, but now you know, we know that it has shown a lot of coagulopathies. A lot of people are getting blood clots. A lot of people are getting bleeds. You know, the mechanism, of course, we're not 100% sure. So it's best to stay away from the NSAIDs, okay? Tylenol and less you know, rugged medications, you know, are much better, but not the NSAIDs. So tell them, no, that's a no-no.
I took Advil. I took Advil.
Yes, you took it and you were fine, but I'm just letting you know now the best medicine right now so far is Tylenol. All right, try to stay away from the NSAIDs, which includes the Advils and you know, see the Advils and stuff like that. All right.
Dr. Clark, I want to really thank all of the panelists. I want to thank Keith Grant, Dr. Paul Anthony, Dr. Clark, and Dr. Camilla Lawrence, and especially Alcian Roach Wilson, Consulate General of Jamaica. You know, this was an absolutely wonderful discussion, and it really is about creating awareness and educating, because we're all going through this together. We're learning as we go along, and we've come so far, but there's still more to be learned. But I think the main message here is to get your vaccine. We can't stress it enough. Our esteemed panel of experts have said that throughout this broadcast. And Consul General, we look forward here at Hartford HealthCare to partnering with you and Jamaica, and in terms of dispelling these myths and creating that vital access to care in these West Indian communities that is so critically needed. So thank you, Chris, and to thank you to all, and thank you especially to the viewers watching for all of your wonderful questions. We hope to see you real soon. For more information, log on to hartfordhealthcare.org/vaccines. I'm Hartford Healthcare's Tina Verona. Thank you so much for watching. Be well and much love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be
Excellent.
safe.
Thank you. Be